We're going to start some absolute value equations today, and we want to first remember what absolute value is. The absolute value of a real number, x, written as the absolute value of x, remember these are your absolute value bars, is its distance from 0 on a number line. So if we look at a, okay, and this is negative a from 0, we don't count that distance as a negative value. We always say it's positive. So this distance x is both a negative a and an a, but in distance world, it's always going to be positive. When we are solving absolute value equations, we have to count for the fact that distance can be positive and distance can be negative. So today we're going to work some various problems practicing this exact skill. So my first example problem is going to be the absolute value of 2x minus 1 equals 5. All right, we are going to account for both it being positive and negative. So this is what a system I've come up with. You take it out of the absolute value bars. So this is now becoming parentheses equals 5. This is the positive version. And then this is becoming the negative version. Well, distributing a positive 3 won't change anything. So going back to my algebra, I'll have 2x equals 6, x equals a positive 3. But over here, and we're going to put a big star here, the reason I put it in parentheses right now is, remember, I have to distribute that negative to each term. So this becomes negative 2x plus 1 equals 5. The 1 moves over to become 4, and x equals negative 2. If I were to graph my solutions, I would have a 0, I would have a negative 2, and I would have 1, 2, and a positive 3. The other thing we now need to do also is we plug this into the equation. So if I plug a 3 in, 2 times 3 is 6, minus 1 is 5. The absolute value of 5 is 5. That checks. Negative 2. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. Minus 1 is negative 5, but it comes out positive. So that also is correct. Both solutions will work. Our next example is going to be this guy. We're going to have 3 times the absolute value of x plus 2 minus 1 equals 8. This is when we have multiple steps in one line. So before you do anything, we have to get it to be absolute value equals something. So everything has to go away. So I'm going to add a 1 to both sides. So I have 3 absolute value of x plus 2 equals 9. I'm going to divide by my 3. Absolute value of x plus 2 equals 3. And now I'm going to solve both the positive and negative version. So I have x plus 2 equals 3, and I have negative x minus 2 equals 3. Now, again, I'm going to star this. This time I didn't write it as negative parentheses x plus 2 equals 3. And I didn't show this step. I did it in my head. You are absolutely allowed to do that, but if you're not sure, then please use this step and move into that one. X equals 1. Negative x equals 5. So x equals negative 5. Again, we can check this. 1 plus 2 is 3. Times 3 is 9. Minus 1 is 8. That works. Negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. Comes out positive. Times 3 is 9. Minus 1 is 8. Again, that also works. So right now we're doing pretty good. Now we're going to move over to a situation where we have something called extraneous solutions. Sounds sort of like a disease, but it is not. So here we go. This is where we have, it's going to look pretty similar to what we've already done. We have the absolute value of 3x plus 2 equals 4x plus 5. All right, everything is away from this guy, so I'm really ready to solve. So I'm going to branch out. 3x plus 2 equals 4x plus 5. And I have negative 3x minus 2 equals 4x plus 5. Again, I distributed that negative through it in my head. If that's not something you can do yet, please do the above step where we had negative in the parentheses. Moving over this way, negative x, 3, x equals a negative 3. This direction, negative 7x equals 7, x equals a negative 1. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to plug in to there to see if this works out. So I have negative 3 times 3 plus 2 equals 4 times negative 3 plus 5. Negative 9 plus 2 is negative 7. Negative 12 plus 5 is negative 7. And you look and you're like, hey, that looks good. But remember, the absolute value of negative 7 is a positive 7. These two values do not equal each other. So this does not work. The solution of negative 3 is something we found from here. Yes, but it's extraneous because even though we solved for it, it doesn't work. So we would not use that answer. Let's try negative 1. 3 times negative 1 plus 2 equals 4 times negative 1 plus 5. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. Negative 4, that's a positive 1. Absolute value of negative 1 is 1. This works. This is my answer. Notice that every problem we've done, I have checked. I just happen to know this one was not going to work for sure, and I wrote out what I did. This is called an extraneous solution. All right? So we want to make sure that on extraneous solutions, we get rid of those guys because we don't want them hanging around. All right? So best of luck on working through these problems. Remember, take your time on each one. Show really clear work and watch your negatives. Good luck.